We have two friends from Midpen Media with us today. First, let me introduce Stan Ng. Stan is a longtime volunteer and part-time staff member at the Midpen Media Center. He's a retired digital electronics design engineer who is now focusing on his longtime hobby of film, TV, and video production. He's an engineer. As an engineer, he enjoys talking about both the technical and the aesthetic sides of video production. Also sitting in and not presenting, but sitting in is Louise Pencavo, Midpen Media Center Director of Production Services. Louise also seems to have a long list of experience in production around the Bay Area with a lot of nonprofit but Louise wanted to sit in, and welcome Stan and Louise, and I'm going to turn it over to Stan now.
Thank you very much, Joey. I'm going to share my screen here. And right. So hopefully everybody can see the PowerPoint presentation here. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, what I'm going to do is to present for hopefully no more than a half hour. Then I'll open it up to questions for you. Here's what I'm going to cover. I spent some time last night looking through all the member churches of the Presbytery and seeing what is happening right now, and I'll tell you what I've found. Then I'm going to go straight to a laptop, how to make yourself look and sound good on a laptop. Then we're going to step up our game, and I'm going to tell you about what external gear you might consider purchasing to give it a better level of production value. I'll tell you how to set up that external gear, and then I'll talk about some streaming options. Okay. So what do we have now? I spent some time looking at the Presbytery website, and I found some churches have no video presence at all. I found one church who has audio only. Then I found some pre-recorded and edited sermons that are presented every week, and these are all over the map in terms of production values. Some are genuinely broadcast quality, and I don't have anything to tell some of these people. Then we have some just gallery style Zooms with the pastor in one square and the congregants in all the other squares. We have a few who give what essentially are PowerPoint presentations, pretty much what you see right now, a person up in the upper corner and then the full screen taken up by a PowerPoint. I think that's a great option because, if you have a pre-recorded and edited presentation, that presumes that you have somebody who's willing to shoot and then edit an entire hour-long program, usually every week, and that could be hard to come by. So a PowerPoint is a good option, I think, because it doesn't require any editing. It just requires PowerPoint skills. We found some presentations streamed live, but then you had what we call roll-ins, some pre-recorded segments. That's a nice compromise, so that if you have musical performances, then you can just show that clip and then continue with the live portions. And we had some live-only presentations. And then we had, at the very top end, we had live presentations with multiple cameras, with a sound engineer and graphics overlaid over things. So that's a full-up production, and that's broadcast quality, I would say. So we have productions from all over the map, and I've got to applaud that a lot of churches have gone online very effectively and given their congregants a feeling of community. So there are pluses and minuses to all of these productions, and I'll let you decide what makes most sense for yourself. I'd like to talk about some basic options for video streaming so that we're all on the same basic level of understanding. And then I'll open it up for specific questions, because as you can see, with all this spectrum of different production values, it's hard to give advice to just one point in the spectrum. So I'll complete, and then I'll open it up for questions and answers. So let me go back for a second. So yeah, I'll talk about what you can do if you are going to limit yourself to just a laptop, camera, and sound. And then I'll suggest some minimum purchases for an external camera, because that'll really up the game quite a bit. So if you have a laptop, what are the benefits of this? Well, practically everyone has one. The drawbacks are that the picture can be quite mediocre and the sound can be quite mediocre. So what I'd like to do is to talk about what you can do to maximize the performance of any laptop computer. So first of all, the more light, the better. I cannot stress this enough. Computer and phone cameras are cheap. After all, it's really an afterthought. The purpose of a computer is to compute, and the purpose of a phone, well, there's many purposes, but cameras are just one tiny slice of the functionality of a computer and a cell phone. As a result, the manufacturer is not going to spend a lot of money on those cameras, $10, $20 at the most. Whereas a video camera, you can be guaranteed that that manufacturer has paid $100, $2,000, $5,000 in the quality of that picture. So it makes sense that a computer and a phone are not going to match a real video camera. And the main way they cut corners there is the light sensitivity. What you're paying for in a $5,000 video camera is the engineering that goes into the light response, the response to light of the sensor in that camera. Lacking that money, then you need a lot of light in order to make that sensor in that cheap device work well. And so more light will mean less grainy, less fuzzy images. So the first piece of advice is to always put as much light into the scene as possible. The second piece of advice that I'd like to give is to minimize the contrast, that is, the brightness on the thing that you want to see, which is usually the face, versus the rest of the background. You see, what happens is, with a phone or a computer camera, you don't have control over the exposure. It's going to always be an auto exposure, and auto exposure takes into account what happens the entire scene. So take a look at my scene, for example. My face is fairly well lit. If I had an auto expose and the background is completely dark, then the exposure is going to get confused and say, well, it's really dark scene. I really ought to bring up the exposure. What happens is that my face will be overlit. The camera will try to raise the light level because it's so dark back there, and so my face will be overlit. On the other hand, if I had a really bright window behind me, then the camera's going to think, wow, this is really too bright, so it's going to crush all the light levels, and as a result, my face will be really dark. So what's the fix to this? If you have something really bright in the background, like an open window, close the blinds so that my face is going to be roughly at the same light level as the background behind me. And if you're at night, I'm sure you've seen this before, if at night you see somebody sitting in front of their computer and there's no room lights on, they're just being lit by the screen, that is a really terrible image because number one, their face is very fuzzy, and number two, they're probably overlit because there's not enough light behind them. So if you have a dark background, turn on the room lights, and that will bring your face roughly on parity with the background, right? So those are the two most common mistakes that I see in terms of exposure level for laptops. And the other thing is, put your camera at eye level. When you think about it, if somebody were to take your picture, they would take your camera, and put it at your eye level. They wouldn't put it down on the desktop, because then you'd be looking up at the person and looking at their ceiling, which quite honestly, I see in a few squares right now in the gallery view. So my main message here is, when it's time to use your laptop as a camera, treat it as a camera. It's no longer a laptop computer. Put it on some boxes so that the lens is at eye level. And of course, pay attention to your background. This is the first time you've seen this room, but Louise can attest that the rest of my room is quite a disaster area. So pay attention to your background. I see a lot of pastors online looking very good because their background is set up quite well, with sanctuary in the background, for example. Next, after you've addressed how to look good, let's talk about how to sound good on the laptop. So the first principle here that I'd like to mention is that a microphone should be close to your mouth. Now, if you are using your laptop and you're not using earbuds, then you're not obeying this first principle, because that microphone is about 2 feet away from your mouth, and you're just not going to get good sound that way. Let me demonstrate for you. I happen to be wearing a microphone. I'm wearing a microphone right here. So that microphone is picking up my voice quite well. Let me switch now to use my built-in microphone. Okay, so now I'm using my built-in microphone on my Macintosh, and you can tell that it sounds not that great. Now I'm about 2 feet away from my microphone. Now imagine if I were standing up and giving a speech, this is how I would sound. Now just imagine how this would sound if you were in a very reverberant space, like in a church. You wouldn't be able to hear what I'm saying very well. So always have a microphone close to your mouth when you are giving a presentation online. And I'm going to switch back. Can I have a thumbs up? You can hear me okay now? Great, great. So put a microphone close to your mouth. What options do you have for doing this? First of all, yes, a built-in mic on your laptop should be your absolute last choice. Very easy solution is what Joey's doing right now. He's wearing earbuds. Now, some people say, well, that makes me look ugly. Well, it doesn't really make you look all that ugly. And people will appreciate having good sound. If you'd like, you can actually use AirPods, Apple AirPods. I think they're about $100 now. So they're not that expensive, and it will create so much more production value. That's something that honestly people forget about because they're so fixated on the picture that they forget about the audio. But when you think about it, if you have a video with terrible picture quality and good audio, you've got a podcast. But if it's the other way around, you're not going to have a good experience if you have terrible audio with pristine video. So please pay attention to some basic level of audio. A step up from earbuds is a wireless body mic, such as what I'm wearing right now. I do have some inexpensive suggestions for that route if you want to go there. And of course, if you have a podium microphone, then that will also give you a very good sound quality. And you might need to have a podium microphone if, for example, you have several speakers have to step up to a mic. If you have 5 different speakers, then it's not really practical to have 5 lavalier microphones attached to them, but you might have them step up to 1 podium microphone, right? Okay, so I've talked about how a laptop can be made to look and sound good. Let's talk about external cameras. First of all, I want to talk about why you might want to use an external camera. I'm using an external camera right now. It happens to be a fairly high-grade camera. And with this camera, I have the option of zooming out so that I can have a fairly wide shot. If I wanted to, I could have an entire band on a stage that I can fixate on, or I can have all the flexibility in the world in terms of the frame that I choose. So this is an external camera. I'm going to switch briefly to my built-in Macintosh. Ooh, I can't do that while I'm sharing. So let me just briefly stop sharing and then switch over to my built-in camera. Okay, so this is my built-in camera on my iMac. So in this case, I have no control over the picture that's being presented. First of all, you do notice that the picture is quite a bit less sharp, right? I do look about 15 years younger, so that's a drawback to the high quality picture. But the point here is that I have very little control over how tight my picture is, right? I'll have to, if I want to be as tight as the other camera is, I'm going to have to snuggle right up to the camera. Right now I'm about a foot away, and this is not very flattering because now my face looks distorted, right? And also, if I wanted to come back here and speak with you back here, I'm really tiny here. I can't zoom. So picture quality, control, and if you have a camera operator, you really want an external camera on a tripod, okay? Let's switch back to my regular camera. All right. So a video camera, external video camera is really highly desired. What you want to look for in a video camera is you want to have a microphone input, obviously, because you want that good audio to come in. And you need something called an HDMI output. Now, the reason for that is that I'm assuming that you want to stream to Zoom while you're doing this. And you need an output, a video output signal. And an HDMI output is the easiest way to get to a computer with a video signal. And then from that HDMI output, you need to have a converter to go to USB, because most computers, all computers, will take USB input, but they cannot take an HDMI input. There is an HDMI socket, but that's for output, because that computer wants to drive an external display. In this case, you want HDMI to come into the computer, and most computers just can't do that, so you need to convert it to USB. And I'll have a suggestion over there. Then you'll tell Zoom to select that external camera input, and I'll show you how to do that as one of the last slides in this presentation. You need a video camera, you need an HDMI to USB converter, and then you need to tell Zoom how to select that external camera. So selecting a camera, you need HD, you need HDMI output, you need a microphone input, and you need a headphone output so you can monitor your audio. Generally, whenever I have video or audio, a camera or microphone to buy, I will go to this website, B&H Photo and Video, and they're in New York, and they have a tremendous selection of cameras and audio gear. If you take a look there, you have several selections. You can go as low as $250 for a Canon Vixia. And this has all those check boxes I mentioned. It's got HD, it's got HDMI output, it's got audio input, and a headphone output. And going up from there, you have a set of features that will give you better picture quality and better light sensitivity. So as expected, the more money you spend, the better picture quality you'll get. Then you have a Panasonic at $800, and this is more or less what I'm using right now as my camera. This is a lower grade version of my camera. So what do you get for these? We can talk about that offline, but each step up gives you a better picture quality and better audio. Now, what you pick may be different depending on what your needs are. If all you need to do is to beat that laptop image, you can go with this $250 Canon Vixia. If you want to do a full-up production with professional audio being fed out and very good picture quality, then you go with this $1,300 camera. So yeah, what you need, what you want, will depend on you, right? So I would suggest if you wanted to consider getting a camera, maybe rent a camera and then try it out, or borrow it, and then decide on those criteria. A microphone. Well, first of all, for laptops, as I said before, use an earbud or AirPods. That's a very easy way to get to where you need to go. And for external cameras, these are two wireless microphone sets that I would recommend. The Rode Go Mic has gotten very popular. It's a fairly new device, and it's taken the AV world by storm because it's very easy to use. Its drawback is that it will not have as good a range. So if you need to transmit the signal more than, let's say, 50 feet, then this is going to run out of steam just because of the basic technology it uses for wireless communications. The Sennheiser G4 set is a ubiquitous microphone set in a lot of lower budget productions. The Media Center has 4 or 5 sets of these microphones. This is in essence what we use as our standard wireless microphone setup. Very robust, very clear sounding. You rarely have any RF problems, any radio interference problems. So those are the 2 price points that I would recommend: $280 for the Go Mic and $500 for the Sennheiser. And these both come with the microphone that will attach to this transmitter. The Go Mic actually has a microphone built into this box, so all you need to do is wear this box. But if you buy the $80 microphone that attaches to this, that will give you a much better sound. I mentioned an HDMI to USB converter. This is what this looks like. You can imagine an HDMI cable plugging into this port here, and then this part just dangles off your computer. So this is what I use. I've had very little problems with it. It's $70. So let's see, if you had the very basic configuration, it looks like $250 for the camera and $280 for the microphone. And then you have $70 here. So you're looking at about $600 for a pretty good setup. And with this setup, you can both stream live to Facebook or YouTube, or you can record segments for later. So you can record a musical performance. You can, I saw one church had the lighting of a candle by a family for Advent, for the start of Advent. So you can make some really good video productions with a fairly small investment. Okay. So now that you have your audio and video connected to your computer, you need to be able to tell Zoom how to take advantage of these new toys. So once you do that, you see that on your Zoom window next to the microphone and camera icon, you can just pop that up and you can select the microphone. In this case, I have several microphones and I just pick the one that I want. You select the speaker, and then for the video camera, this FHD capture is what that USB converter box looks like. So I can choose this, or I can choose the FaceTime camera. That's what I just did just now, to go between my camera and my built-in camera on my computer. I also have been playing around with a GoPro, so that's why this is there. So you see, it's very easy to switch back and forth between different cameras. And as you can see, there is even a shortcut to switch. So I should have looked at that before. If I just did did that key click combination, then I can go back and forth. I can go between my built-in camera and then back to my my external camera. Did something bad happen here?
Yeah, you went to your GoPro.
Oh, okay. I don't even know where my GoPro is. Let me fix that. Okay, there we go. All right. So to stream, to close it out, to stream, you have several options. The first option, of course, is just to stay on Zoom. And many people do that. And using Zoom, you're assured that everyone can interact using chat, and you can even use breakout rooms. Everyone has control over what they want to see. You know that. You can just click on that icon up to the upper right, and you can pick the gallery view or the active speaker view. And the host can spotlight a person. So that's what we're doing right now. You're spotlighting myself so that I'm always on camera. On Facebook, many groups, many churches have a Facebook page. And the reason you might want to stream directly to Facebook is because you have all the outreach that is available on that page. And all you need to do is to start streaming to that Facebook page. And people who are signed up for notifications just automatically get notified. It's very easy to stream something and have it reach the right people on Facebook. YouTube, is a very widely known video location, so it makes a lot of sense to stream to YouTube. Once you are done with Facebook and YouTube, in addition to getting a live feed on those platforms, once you're done, you're assured that a recording then lives on Facebook or YouTube until you want to take it down. On YouTube, you can even do some rudimentary editing. Like for example, if you are late in starting your program, if you're 5 minutes delayed, you can just go into YouTube and edit out those 5 minutes so that when somebody clicks on that video, they go right to the start of the program. So Facebook and YouTube are very commonly used options, and they're very convenient. There's also a way to stream to a custom location. And two reasons you might want to do that is that you might have some time arranged with a public access TV station like the Midpen Media Center. And we have a way to, excuse me, we have a way to take that video stream from your Zoom session and directly broadcast it to the TV. Or you can use a restream service such as Caster or Restream. These are for pay sites where they will take your stream and fan it out to as many different destinations as you'd like. So that's what I have for you in terms of a prepared presentation. I entertain any questions you have, any specific questions you have for your particular location.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Stan. Do you go by Stan or Stanley?
I go by Stan, sure.
Yeah. All right. Just look at your screen. So thank you, Stan. And I see so as we're kind of coming into a question time, on the chat box, there was a couple things that were mentioned during your presentation. And this is from Michael Cox, who maybe can describe it. But he says the AirPods or headphones are great for a single speaker. How about if we're trying to capture music, like if we have a pastor speaker plus a pianist in the background? How about that one first?
Okay, well, that's an excellent question. I did notice that there was a couple of sermons who tried to capture either using, I think, a laptop computer, or just tried to catch it in some way. What you really would like to do is to take it in through an external microphone. The high-end camera that I was showing earlier, the reason I'm still sharing, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So this machine on the right, the reason it looks so much bigger is because this handle up here has a connector for 2 microphones. Now, one of these could be for the pastor's lavalier mic, and one of these could just be a external shotgun microphone, or just a microphone that's hanging over the pianist or the singers. So I would suggest you do it that way. The point is that you need a microphone input for the general room in addition to a body mic, lavalier microphone. So that's how I would do it. Now, if you wanted to get even more sophisticated, let's say you have a band and you have a guitarist and a drummer and a bassist and a vocalist, and you wanted to mix these together, then I actually did see one church that had an audio engineer assigned to this, and what they had was way above what the scope of this group is intended for. And what they did was to have at least 4, maybe 5 microphones, and they had an audio engineer at a mixer board, and that audio engineer was mixing, then sending that signal out to probably another interface into the computer. So there are many ways to slice this pie, but yeah, the most basic level is to just have 2 microphones, both coming into the camera. And for that, you would need generally what's called an XLR input. And that's why this camera costs $1,300 versus the $250 for the basic version.
Okay. I'll just point us to, there's a couple more questions in the chat. But if somebody here has a question they're thinking of now, or comment, feedback, something for Stan to talk about, you can do the raise hand function. To do that, you just go into participants, I believe. And it'll go over to your name, and you can hover and raise your hand. Is that how it works?
You can actually just go down to the reactions button, and there's a no, I'll take that back. Yeah, you do have to go to the participants pane.
Anyway, raise a hand. So there's a couple more in here. Gary asks this question: do you have any specific recommendations for lighting the pastor? Maybe in the sanctuary, I guess, is this, or wherever they are? Yeah.
So yeah, I would say, so first of all, there tends to be a sufficient light level for anyone that's in the church, just from the available lights. However, if you have an additional light, light isn't just for getting enough light for the camera to operate. It also shapes the face. Like, for instance, my face is lit by a desk lamp off to the side here. If I turn this off, then this is what I look like, right? The benefit of having a light come from the side like this is that now my face is given a little bit more definition. The shadows fall in the places they fall because of the shape of my face. I think that's a little bit too bright. But if you'd like to read more about this, just Google 3-point lighting, And what that means is that you have a main light that defines the face by casting shadows on the face. But then if you don't have any light to fill in the shadows, it looks too stark. So you have, in addition to your main or key light, you have a fill light. And generally you have light from the back.
Mhm.
And the light from the back tends to give three-dimensional shape to the shoulders and to the head and to the hair. So just Google 3-point lighting, and that'll give you plenty of tips. That presumes that you have three lights, the main light from 45 degrees here, a fill light from the opposite direction, much lower intensity, and generally some light from the back.
Nice. So there's also a question in the chat box. I'm sorry if I'm glitching. Am I glitching? Or no?
Not too badly.
Am I glitchy? Am I frozen? I'm frozen.
No, you're fine.
Does that help at all?
I'm not sure it does, but you weren't bad at all.
Sorry, guys.
You still with us, David?
Doesn't seem like it.
Okay.
Am I on now?
Yes, you
Yes.
are.
Yeah, you've been fine the whole time.
Yeah, say I've been fine. I'm frozen over here. Okay. So there's a couple sort of very specific questions in the chat box about some stuff, but I wanted to say, which you may want to do offline, or you may be able to address here today. I don't know. If you're reading those, I would read it wrong if I tried to read it out loud. Thanks a lot, Michael Cox. I'll see you.
Okay, TLDR, is this the one? Okay. We have one Shure MV88 condenser 8 feet from the stage. Not great. Totally fine if this is too specific. Generally speaking, the number one thing that you want to look for in a microphone is how close they are to the mouth. I do audio recording for film in my spare time, and I always refer to the boom mic, that mic that you hang off the pole. That boom mic has to be in swatting distance, what I call swatting distance, and that's about 18 inches away. If that microphone is farther than 18 inches away, to me, that is too far away. And the reason for that is that there's background noise that you pick up if you're not close to the source. The background noise could be air conditioner noise, it could be feet on pavement, and it actually can be a lot of reverberations from the wall. So in order to get good audio, you have to be a lot closer than 8 feet away. If you're trying to get a choir, then it's okay to back off a bit, because the choir is going to have a tremendous amount of volume, and you want to collect a lot of voices pretty much evenly. So you want to back off. But if you're more than a couple of feet away, then that's really too far. You really do need to get up close and personal with these mics.
Okay. Yep. Others just in the room who either want to raise a hand with a comment or question, something else to bring today? And you might be reading it, the chat.
So it looks like Gary Lee is saying we send out a line out from our mixer to an audio converter that goes into a laptop. Yeah, that's great. That's great. Is that I can't remember which one that I saw that I was so impressed by, but it could very well be that one. Yeah, some good work there, Gary.
Nice. Other folks around the room, something on this. This is interesting to hear you talking about this. Some of it is, I think for me, as I hear it, confirming, like, okay, that's good. We're doing some of those things, or we've been trying to do those things. And then others, I'll circle back with our guy, Carlo, who's on the call, who's our main technician, and sort of see what he's hearing, to continue to improve things.
Okay. Any comments from Carlo?
Oh, Carlo. He told me he didn't want to be called on, but there he is. Sorry, Carlo. What do you want to say?
No, this is great. Thank you for having this presentation. Very helpful.
Sure. My pleasure. My pleasure. The video camera we use has an SD card for recording the service. Are there downsides to that? Good question. No, there are no downsides that I know of. In fact, that would be really advisable, actually, because when you think about it, in order to get that video image all the way out to YouTube or Facebook or Zoom, for example, there has to be a lot of compression done. So not the best picture goes out over there. My picture looks pretty good right now, but I can guarantee you that if I recorded locally on the SD card in this camera, it's going to look tons better than even the image that you're seeing right now. And that's because before the picture goes out on the wire, you have to degrade the quality in order so that the picture goes out with something less than 60 megabits a second, which is what would be recorded on this camera. So yeah, if you have an SD card, by all means, turn on the record button. And if you have somebody who knows how to use editing software, you can just give that SD card to that editor and they'll edit it. They'll chop off the beginning and the end. They can even do fancy things like overlay graphics. They can cut out awkward pauses in their program. We do that all the time at the Media Center. We stream the live version, but then I'll go ahead and download the picture and then edit it and then put a cleaned up version onto YouTube.
Hey, Dave, I have a question.
Go ahead, Joey.
Yeah, Stan, when you showed those cameras, obviously they could be handheld or they're on a tripod, I assume, right?
Yeah.
I know some of our churches have these kind of mounted cameras up on the balcony or
Right.
under somewhere, and I just say that picture quality is usually not very good. I say it looks like a security camera.
Yeah. Formerly, they are called PTZ cameras, and PTZ stands for point, tilt, and zoom. So they're robotic cameras that can point left, right, it can tilt up, down, and it can zoom in and out. And you generally see these because you want to have several different angles for your cameras, but you don't want to have to pay for a camera operator on each of these cameras all the time. So these are remotely operated by somebody who's also selecting which camera shows up. You see PTZ cameras in these sorts of applications. For example, in city council meetings, they have these very sophisticated PTZ cameras where you can preset a camera to point at this council member or that council member or that council member, and somebody can just push a button and this thing will just zip and then focus directly on that council member. But they don't tend to be very good quality camera because they're very small and lightweight, and just by their nature, you want several of them in a council room, for example, and you can't spend $5,000 per camera. So I know that some churches have these installed, and actually, in previous conversation, there is a niche of AV marketing called houses of worship. So if you ever have any questions about how other people are doing these things, just go to a video discussion board and look for houses of worship, and you'll see what other people are doing in their churches.
But again, the cameras that you showed, they're either handheld or on a tripod, right?
True. And it's a good point. And don't forget the tripod. You do need a tripod. You don't want to handhold these cameras, or you don't want to just plop it on a desk. A nice tripod would be good. You generally don't need a very expensive tripod. I would suggest spending $100 on a tripod because they don't have to have a very fancy fluid head to smooth out motion. You're probably not going to move these cameras around a lot. So $100 for a tripod is just fine.
Right. We have a question here in the chat. It's about if this is your website, and that's correct. Someone else saying they want to make an appointment with you. Stan, what's the best way for people to kind of follow up out of this discussion with you and your team?
Contact Louise. Louise, how do you best want people to contact you? You're okay.
Probably, if you're okay with it, Joey, I'm not sure if you're going to have a flood or a couple, but if everything could go through you to me, I think that's the most streamlined way to do it.
Sounds good. So folks, if you are interested in maybe having a more consultation with them, just email me, joey@sanjosepby.org. I'm at the Presbytery. I'll type it in. But if you contact me, and then I'll get in touch with Louise and we'll set you all up.
Perfect. I think that's either one probably works.
Yeah. Hey, that's a private website for me, so don't use that.
Okay.
I have a question, Stan. And
Yes.
forgive me because I'm using the onboard microphone on our desktop.
I can tell.
But another sound and video person told me that when you're on Zoom, that the number of people you have on your Zoom thing actually takes up more bandwidth, that additional people takes up more bandwidth on your transmission. Is that true? And
I'm
is
not sure.
there a limit for us?
I'm not sure. I don't know that that's true. I don't know that that's true. The architecture of Zoom is that, yes, everybody does send information to Zoom, but Zoom then repackages that and then sends the picture to your computer. Now, when they send the picture to your computer, it's already prepackaged. Right now, I see a grid of 23 people. And it's not like I'm getting 23 streams. I'm getting one stream with 23 people in it. So I'm not really sure that that's true. I'll do some reading on that, and I'll contact you if I find something different. But I don't think I don't think many people will cause more bandwidth to be used on your end.
Okay, thanks a lot. It's helpful.
Sure.
Okay, so anyway, you all know that, first of all, let me thank Stan, let me thank you and Louise for participating and helping us to explore what bumping up our audio and visual game might look like for our churches. All of you know that the Church Health and Growth Work Group has sponsored this event and continues to want to assist our congregations. If you would like to have further conversations with Stan, you have my email address, and I will get you in touch with the folks at Midpen Media. So with that, we're gonna say thanks again and see you later, and good luck filming and videoing yourselves.